You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hella Well with Danielle podcast. 2020 has been a year. Like if anyone told me in, any other year, even last year, that travel would be pretty much, I'd be going nowhere this year. And not that I'm not going anywhere, no one's going anywhere. I would be like, someone is lying. What are you talking about? Travel would never change. The travel industry was just booming. But that being said, if you're a traveler or just a person in general, 2020 is a year you're probably always going to remember. The coronavirus pandemic has impacted the way we work, the way we spend our leisure time, and now the way we spend the holidays. Most of us are used to traveling and flying to out of the country. Like my plan was to definitely be somewhere out of the country last year. I took a cruise with my niece to the Bahamas, which I definitely wouldn't be cruising this year, even though most cruise lines are not available, but some are. But, that's what we used to do. Like people would go on cruises, they would go to warm locations, or they would go visit their relatives in different states. And so what was the holiday norm in travel is no more. And so I think right now everyone's kind of going with the ideal of there's no place like home for the holidays, and people are looking for creative ways to spend the holidays, either in something like a travel pod, which we talked about in the previous podcast, or just with their immediate family. And so one thing I really wanted to talk about this week was staycations. Staycations are a great way, and they can even rival your own, real quote unquote vacations if they're done properly. And so if you aren't familiar with the word staycation, a staycation is somewhere near your home, so you don't have to travel like any hassles with airports or unknown cities. And hopefully that, because you've been in the area, you kind of know what's going on with the pandemic restrictions. And so it's a great way to actually get to know the place you're staying or find some creative ways to do stuff at home. And so I wanted to kind of break down in two different ways. So I wanted to talk about things that you can do specifically at home if you aren't someone who wants to go outside of your actual home, and then also, close by getaways. And, the benefits of staycations is obviously you're saving hella money compared to what you would normally be spending on a vacation. A normal vacation, you'd be spending money on air travel and by buying new wardrobes and all these different things. And, Americans go into debt trying to pay for vacations. And, doing a staycation, you're spending way less than what, the norm, which is a lot of people will spend between 10 to 15% of their income on travel. So it's a great way to have that travel experience in a safe home environment. And so there's two things. I don't know if, we're in the middle of a surge happening right now. And so a lot of places are different. Like I know a couple friends are saying that they're potentially going on lockdown soon that are in Maryland. I'm in San Francisco. We're not on lockdown because there's still a lot of people out and about kind of hanging out, but we're still kind of focusing on most people wearing masks. Like we have to wear masks outside. But if you are in a place of, not locked down, think about things that you can do in terms of, hiring someone and coming into your house, or, also doing a couple other things that would kind of create the mood. So let's just start off with before you even go any further into staycations, like the key things that will make or break your staycation. And one of the things is to act like time does not exist. Think about it. When you're on your normal vacation, you're not checking for your watch, seeing what time it is. You're not checking the news. You're really in vacation mode. And that's the same mode you want to put yourself in terms of a staycation. So I highly recommend staying off of your devices, turning off notifications, and actually removing clocks. again, when you're on vacation, I don't know about you, but I never look at a clock. I don't even know if there are clocks in the hotels because I'm just not checking for it. But if you're at home and you have a bunch of clocks and watches everywhere, it reminds you that, oh, yeah, this time, because you're in the same setting, I'm normally working or I'm normally doing this or the kids are at school. And so removing the clocks, removing the watches, and being in the moment is so key to creating like an epic staycation situation. And also skip the news for a few days. There's nothing going on. We may find out, did President elect Biden really finally get, approved from, or not approved, because he's already approved, but if, has Trump decided to actually, concede, which I'm not even going to go there. So we're going to leave that. I'm going to stop that story right now. But like, seriously, you're not going to miss much in the news. The news is going to tell you the news. That's going to be the same news. That's going to be probably the same news as next week. So, being able to skip a few days of the news is not going to be, and you're not going to miss much. Also, dressing the part. That's so key. Like when you are on vacation, you dress a certain way. So when you're creating a staycation vibe, depending if you're doing a theme or something, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, dressing the part is so key. So if I'm going to do a staycation, I'm a beach person or a person who wants to be in a more warm location. So I'm going to put on my sundresses. I'm going to turn on the heat probably a little bit higher. And that's the other thing, it's like setting the mood as well. So it also, if you were playing a staycation where you're supposed to be in Hawaii, dress the part and have that actual place feel like heat and hot. And so that also helps with that setting that same mood. And also, don't forget a budget as you would a vacation. Even though you're doing a staycation, there is money that you're most likely going to spend. So plan properly, because again, I never want to see anyone go into debt trying to pay for a vacation. That's just not the way to live, and it's kind of stressful. Also, there isn't the time to do chores and errands or any DIY project. This isn't the time to say, okay, we're on staycation, so I'm now going to redecorate the living room. Wrong. This is not that time. This is the time to unplug, unwind, and just breathe and have some fun. So skip the responsibilities like you're on vacation. Skip the dishes. Skip most of the stuff. Skip laundry. Skip, redecorating things. Skip, fixing something. This is a time to really, again, unplug, unwind, as you would on vacation. And so, and there's different things you do with staycations. I know, and a lot of people think of staycation like, oh, I'm just on a computer and I'm looking at, some YouTube video. Yes, that's one way of doing it, but it's not really fun, nor do I really kind of think of that as staycation. I kind of figure that's like my day-to-day life. So what I would recommend in staycation, so I'm going to give you a couple different ideas. I love creating like a luxury Zen staycation. And like, what does that mean? It's whatever luxury means to you. So for me, I would like to recreate a 5-star hotel experience. So I'm gonna buy some high-end sheets because nowadays you can still buy stuff on Amazon and bring in the look and feel. I would create a fancy meal or have someone else create a fancy meal. If I'm creating a staycation meal, especially during the holidays, I'm not gonna buy my basic veganish whatever, like my Beyond Meat food. I'm going to buy if it was someone else, I would buy lobster or I'd buy steak. I wouldn't because I don't eat those things. But someone else who does, go big or go hard. Me, I'm probably making something like truffles because I love truffles. If anyone wants to buy me a holiday gift, that's what I love, and not the chocolate ones. But like having a fancy meal or even having someone come in and hiring a chef or someone to come clean or massage therapist, if those are things that are open in where you are and you feel comfortable, I would probably, if it was me, if I'm considering hiring a chef or a massage person, I would ask them to see if they can get a COVID test. I might be asking a lot, but I like to be safe than sorry, so I think that's something to consider. Um, but having someone come in and just cook for you and your family or give you and your boo a massage is like an amazing way to kind of have that staycation feeling. Also, a great thing to consider is staging your house. If you, again, are not in a place where you're on full lockdown, have, there's these event companies that come in who definitely need the money and so would probably do this probably at a cheaper rate, but they can recreate this whole experience. So if you are in somewhere cold like Chicago, but you want to have this, Moroccan style feeling, and you can have them come in and recreate this beautiful place in your own home for you. And so not only are you doing the things that set you up for a staycation experience, whether, it's food or whatever, but also you can have someone actually physically come in and create the mood for you. And if that's not something you want to do, you can always do it yourself. Again, you have, Wayfair and all those other places, Amazon, where you can buy things. So we're going with the whole Moroccan theme. So saying that's what you want to do, buy these beautiful, embroidered pillows. Of, maybe get a nice rug, and then, have set up a dinner or a meal, whatever, where you're sitting on these, on the floor versus at a normal table. And so there's so many different ways, and I encourage you to get creative. I mean, that's the best way to really make a staycation really stand out is A, follow the tips I gave you guys earlier, but also use your creativity. The more creative you are, the more amazing this staycation is going to be. Um, and then also one of the things, like if you're creating like a vacation type of staycation, I love vacations. I just need the bay. Select a destination, and I say select with air quotes, a destination that you're going to recreate. So say you and Bay wanted to recreate a holiday in Paris. So think about what you would have in Paris, and you maybe want the berets, or you want the outfits, you want some French bread, you want the music, you want, maybe you have a poster of the Eiffel Tower, different things you can do to bring in that feel. It's just about transferring your home into that experience. And also, one thing I don't think people think about, but it's a bomb way to, especially if it's like just, you and someone else, to really truly feel like you're in somewhere else, is to consider virtual reality. There's so many great virtual reality type of glasses and experiences where you can, virtually see the pyramids or do a hot air balloon or go diving. And it feels like the real thing. And it's definitely a step way above watching a YouTube video. Nothing wrong with watching YouTube videos, but if you want to kind of take it to that next level, I think considering doing virtual reality is another great thing. If you are also thinking about having a vacation type of experience, think about cooking experiences, or, especially we're talking about, if this is, you're picking Paris as your city, destination city that you're recreating, Airbnb experiences are amazing. There's personalized city tours of Paris. You can go tango. You can go to a tango concert in Buenos Aires. You can learn how to make mojitos in Cuba. There's even like a cocktail party history lesson slash private concert with a Grammy singer that's going on, and that I saw. There's so many different things. So if you want to do that, like, you want to take cooking lessons from a Parisian chef, or learn how to make macaroons. There's so many things on Airbnb experiences, but also just in general. Like there's a cooking class I was looking at, I forgot the name. I think it was Chef and the Dish, which I love. They had like a 1 hour, like what's in your refrigerator, and where they pair with a surprise chef anywhere in the world, whatever you have in your pantry, in your refrigerator, which I think is kind of a very creative and fun and different experience that you can have. If you are open to going outside, think about exploring your local area. Think, act like you're a tourist. Take a hike. For me, I can hike in lands and trails over in San Francisco, or go to the beach or a nearby lake. Let's go for a drive that's not far, but again, social distancing. So there's so many different things you can do locally that we probably don't take advantage of, because our first thing is oh my God, I need a vacation. I need to buy a plane ticket, or I need to go somewhere further away from where I live. If you have kids, one great ideal to do um, is to plan a safari. I love the ideal of getting a tent and setting it up in the house, or having dinner outside al fresco, like you can grill whatever you're eating, do, s'mores for dessert. And then there's all these amazing virtual safaris. Like I know Africam has like 6 cameras across different spots in Africa. I know Safari Live by Wild Earth is another one. And they have a lot of private game reserves on the western border of Kruger National Park. And so, there's definitely tons of virtual safaris that I think kids would love, and even adults love. If you've never been on a safari, it's pretty epic and amazing. I was actually on one last year in South Africa. But I also make sure when you are doing these things, go back to what I was saying before, is you're dressing the part. So if I'm going on safari, I'm going to have like the cute little outfit on. I'm going to have the hat, maybe the shoes. And so again, it gets you in your mind in the mindset of vacation. Because when you're on vacation, you're not going to feel like you're on vacation. If you're on the beach and you're in your work clothes, that's not going to feel like vacation. It's about dressing the part. It's about the mindset. It's about turning the mind off and knowing that I'm on vacation. My clothes tell me I'm on vacation. I'm not looking at the time tells me I'm on vacation. The weather tells me I'm on vacation. The scenery tells me I'm on vacation. And these are all things you can do from your home. And if a safari is not your thing, think about doing the Northern Lights. There's tons of virtual experiences of the Northern Lights. And if you really want to get all, ballsy, it's going to be cold in Iceland. So you can drop down the weather, put on those like layers of clothes, and, prepare yourself for a hella cold night with beautiful Northern Lights. So those are some things that you can do, I feel, from home. And then obviously you have the basic things like, traveling through movies or virtual getaways. And then you can also explore different bucket list destinations through, Google has this thing called Google Arts and Culture, and they have street views of a lot of locations, which I think is actually pretty cool. I discovered that earlier this year when I was in that kind of staycation mode and needing to go somewhere. But if you are feeling froggy, and I don't know why I use the word froggy, but if you are feeling someone who I'm comfortable getting out of my own house, I'm comfortable, exploring a little bit further outside of where I am, there are a lot of great things you can do. You can do a Airbnb, which is what I've been doing. So I've been doing Airbnbs local and finding places that I've been mainly doing it just to work. But if you are looking for something, especially for the holidays, look for a place that's large and, maybe it's really fancy and something that you normally wouldn't choose. But for the holidays and you're getting a festive mood, pick a location that may be a little bit more, creative or something different that you wouldn't normally pick, and it doesn't feel like you just switch from your one house to the next house. Um, Also, a lot of hotels are doing some amazing things. Hotels all over the globe are curating these amazing experiences in suite for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and special occasions. And it's not your average room service, so don't think it's just basic. So, like, for example, I know in Brooklyn, there's like the William Val Hotel, which has the Val Garden residence, and that's like a 2-story penthouse, skyline views, and they allow like 10 people guests, and they'll cook this amazing meal, and they'll have like a meal from local restaurants like Laconda Verde or Little Park, if you're familiar with those restaurants in Brooklyn. Or like if you're in Baltimore, the Baltimore has the Sagamore Pendry, and they have their Governor Harbor and Presidential Suites. It allows 8 people, spacious suites, and they're doing like VIP local Sagamore whiskey tastings with snacks, which if you're a whiskey person, which I am, that sounds bomb to me. And then what I am like hella in love with, if I was in Miami, I'm sure this is probably booked, but I would say if it's not, I highly encourage you to look it up. Miami's hotel, what is the hotel name? The hotel's name is Aquilina Resort Residence on the beach. They're doing this Thanksgiving dinner on the balcony overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. Could you imagine that? You're having a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner, but four or more people on this balcony overlooking gorgeous water, amazing scene. And then there's the team from Il Molino, New York, which is cooking in your kitchen a turkey meal. Imagine how amazing an experience that would be and how different of experience it will be. And you're in the comfort of your hotel or home. So that's something, and like a lot of other hotels around the world are doing things like this in your local areas. So if this is something that sounds something of interest to you, I encourage you to look into hotels in your area and see what they're doing. And I wanted to talk about a couple different places that are doing different things in the holidays. So I kind of picked three or four different cities to give you like, okay, here's what's going on in these cities, and here's if you are in these cities, here's how you can spend staycations outside of your home. So, example, we're kind of go back to New York. If you're in New York, masks are expected to be worn in public and in subways. The hotels have no guest room capacity, but there is like a 50 people limit in terms of gatherings. Restaurants right now, as of recording, I believe, are at a 25% capacity for indoor restaurants. And then Broadway shows and theaters are obviously closed, but museums and historical sites are open at 25% capacity. Because there's not many people out and about, the Brooklyn Bridge and the High Line, if you never gone to the High Line is this elevated linear park on the west side of Manhattan. But, go to the Brooklyn Bridge, the High Line, there's less people. Take a stroll. Like, it's such a beautiful place to just kind of walk and see and just enjoy life. And then, act like a tourist. We talked about this before. There's nighttime sightseeing cruises to see like the New York lights. Also, New York and Company does this great update, tells you what's open in the city so you can kind of know what's going on. In terms of holiday stuff, the Rockefeller tree will be lit. The ball will drop in New York Times in Times Square, and the menorah will be in Central Park. So those basic things that when we think of the holidays in New York are happening. The Thanksgiving parade by Macy's is happening, but they're not opening it up to spectators, so that's not going to be where you can actually go out and see it, but you can watch it on TV, which is interesting. This is the first time in 159 years that that's not happening like that. So, which is tells you a lot about this pandemic being a real thing. There's also the return of the Lumino City Festival on Randall Island starting November 27th, I believe it is. And so I think that's beautiful. And then the Bronx Zoo is doing their holiday lights as well. So one thing to consider is I know that the mayor of New York was urging the federal government to require people to have proof of a negative COVID test for 72 hours in advance. It's if you are thinking about flying in. Because, I know some people are still looking for places to go within the United States, and they're okay with flying. So if you're okay with flying, this is kind of what's going on in New York. Another place to consider is Miami. We talked about the Aquilina Hotel, which if I was in Miami, y'all know where I would be. Or if you want to gift me something, you know where I want. But so if Miami, but this is the other thing, Miami, I'm still a little bit kind of iffy about Florida. So Miami or just Florida in general, the masks are required indoors, but not outdoors. And so coming from California, that kind of throws me off because I'm so used to everyone wearing masks. And so when I don't see people with masks, I kind of do freak out. And that's my own thing. But if you're different, great. There is unlimited indoor and outdoor dining, which says a lot. So indoors, you would probably have to wear a mask. Outdoor, it's free for all. There is a 6 feet, social distancing. So there is that. There are, you can't gather more than 10 people. And then there's a curfew. So keep that in mind. There is a curfew starting from, midnight to 6 a.m. in Miami-Dade. But the beaches are open with no mask, just social distancing for 6 feet. And then movie theaters are open, concert halls are open, and other indoor capacity entertainment is open for 50% capacity. So there's, all those things that most of us are missing. You kind of, if you really feel comfortable, all those things are kind of available in Miami. Plus, you have, things like you can go kayaking or do a stand-up paddleboarding in the Biscayne, I'm probably botching the name, Biscayne National Park, and then you do walking towards the South Beach. And if you're looking for something holiday oriented, I didn't see a lot of stuff oriented like right now, but I know that you can go to the Deering Estate, which is this 1920s vintage spot that does like this vintage holiday decor, and that opens up on November 27th. And then if you are in the LA area, which is where I've been kind of staycationing with or doing my travel pods, masks in public are required, as including the beaches. Restaurants are only outdoors only. Though that's weird that I feel like I've seen some restaurants a little bit indoor, but not really. Like, so I don't know. I've been staying more in the Venice area. I do know that hotels are open to full capacity to social distancing, so there's no limit on the hotels. But museums are closed. But then you have the beaches, which are open. We talked about that already. The parks, there's hiking trails. You could hike up to the Hollywood sign. You could do guided tours of various neighborhoods like Koreatown, Hollywood, and Baldwin Hills. Like, there's all these great tours. Or what I love about being in LA is there's so much street art and murals to see. So you can just create your own tour, and helps you social distance even more so. And you can check out the new Kobe Bryant mural, which I saw, which was amazing. Shopping malls are open at 25% capacity, but if you're going to something like the Promenade on Third Street in Santa Monica, it's an outdoor shopping area, so you don't have to worry about being indoor. And so there's tons and tons of shops. They have your typical stores like H&M and PacSun and Zara and all those other stores down that way. Or you go somewhere like Abbot Kinney, which is where I love, which is in Venice. You have all these unique, small boutiques, which are all open, great stores, dispensaries if you're over 21. I'm just saying. So there's so many different things that you can do in LA, and LA is so broad that you can go to so many different areas outside of LA. If you are thinking about going outside of LA, one of the hotels I would look into is the H2O Hermosa. It's totally like a laid back retreat beach vibe, and it opened in October. And it's just an ideal coastal getaway. This cute boutique hotel. It's a block away from the sand, and it's near the Hermosa Beach Pier, the Strand, and the Pier Plaza. So, again, not in downtown LA, but it is somewhere that I would consider. Also, if you're looking for something holiday-esque, there is the Elf on the Shelf's magical holiday journey, which sounds a little bit interesting to me. I have to admit, I am kind of curious. But it's like a 1 hour drive-through show in Panama that started November 6th. So I don't know. I can't really say what it's going to be like, but it sounds interesting enough to where I would be curious. Okay, so the last city that I wanted to kind of talk about was Chicago. I know Chicago's probably a little bit on the colder side right now. I have a girlfriend that lives there. She's talking about 30 degrees weather, so I'm like, eeks. Masks are being considered, like you do need to wear a mask in public settings. Indoor dining is at 25% capacity, so that's something to keep in mind as it gets colder. I know that they've been working on, doing more heat lamps or patios and stuff like that to help people, but again, I'm not from Chicago, and I think that would be hella cool for me, especially knowing that bars are only outdoors. But the great thing about Chicago right now is museums are open, like the Art Institute of Chicago. There's walking tours of the city's gangster and architectural landmarks, which I've actually done the architectural landmark walking tour, which was amazing. I love buildings, so that for me was like everything. But you can also explore the downtown Riverwalk, And in terms of like holiday stuff, they are doing a couple different things. Like I know there is the Art on the Mart, which is like this digital projection of the Nutcracker by the Joffrey Ballet on the building that was formerly known as the Merchandise Mart. Also, there's the Zoo light show that happens in Lincoln Park, and that's starting November 21st. And the Nutcracker showing, I think, starts on November 12th. So those are a couple different things you can do in terms of if you want to look at different cities and kind of being out and about in the area. Again, I talked about it a little bit earlier. Airbnbs are a great way to get away from your own home if you aren't feeling comfortable in a hotel. Like I don't feel as comfortable in hotels. I feel like hotels, they do clean and there is, keyless or contactless check-ins and stuff like that. And so they are doing a lot more than they used to. I still kind of prefer in this pandemic mode doing Airbnb. And if you are thinking about an Airbnb, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to listen to our episode 2 weeks ago on travel pods, which I kind of break down a little bit further about like what to look for in an Airbnb. So I don't want to go into this one because I really felt like in that one you can find out kind of the pros and cons of staying at an Airbnb or a VPRO and kind of, what to look for and, why you should stay in one. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I just say, just because we're in a pandemic, which is a very serious pandemic, and I want you to be safe, it doesn't mean the holidays are canceled. There's so many different ways that you can bring travel or travel experiences to your holidays to make it different if it's just you staying at your home and it's a different vibe, or you wanting to, go out of your home and, experience having a bomb meal cooked by a local chef or something like that. There's just so many options. And I encourage you also just to, these are ideals that I brought up, but look in your local area. I'm sure there's something going on, or looking, at your local hotels to see what they're doing, or looking at local Airbnb experiences, or just stuff like that. Like, just know that the holidays is not over, but we may be home for the holidays, and it's okay, especially during this time, because we want to be safe during the surge that's happening all around the world. So I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Next week's conversation, is a topic that I love, and it is a topic that changed my life last year. I'm not going to give the full details on this because I'm being very secretive, but this one thing gave me life. And it literally was part of my rebirth into going from someone who was grieving and tired and sad and not taking care of herself to really helping me take care of myself, and not only just myself physically, but mentally. So I can't wait for you guys to hear from one of my most favorite guests. And I think the conversation was so bomb. Anyway, I will talk to you guys next week. Have an amazing week and make sure you're staying hella well. All right, ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hella Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellawellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hella Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hella Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.